Hi, welcome back to the Fern Bacon Math Tutorials page, and this tutorial is on lesson 1.6 in pre-algebra, and this is on multiplying decimals. So before we get started here, we do want to review our rules for factors. So a factor is a number that we multiply. So there's 4 rules for factors. The first is a positive times a positive equals a positive times a negative equals a negative times a positive equals a negative, and lastly, a negative times a negative equals a positive. So if you need to write these down to remember them while you're practicing, this is the point where you can pause this and write this down. But today we're going to start with first an example that's just positives. So here I have 3 7/10 times 2 51/100. When I'm multiplying decimals, I do not need to line up the decimals because we're not adding place values, we're multiplying them, so they don't need to line up. But I do want to stack the number with more digits on top. So if I look at my first factor, it only has 2 digits, but if I look at my second factor, it actually has 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go in and stack the second factor on top. So I'm going to have 2 51/100, and I'm going to multiply that with 3 7/10. So again, my decimal does not need to be lined up because I am doing multiplication. I'm not adding place values. So when I multiply, I'm going to go and multiply just like any regular multiplication problem without decimals. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 5 is 35. Carry my 3. 7 times 2 is 14. Plus 3 is 17. I like to cross out the number I've multiplied and anything I've carried. I'm going to move on to my next place value, so I'm going to hold that place and go 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 5 is 15, carry my 1, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. I'm going to add those two products together. 7 plus 0 is 7, 5 plus 3 is 8, 7 plus 5 is 12, carry the 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 7 is 9. And here's the part that makes multiplication of decimals different. So I didn't need to line up the decimals, but I do need to count how many place values I am going to move. So according to this decimal, I have hundredths, so I'm going to move it twice. And one more place value is tenths. So when I multiply hundredths times tenths, I actually need to move it so it's in the thousandths. So it's a total of 1, 2, 3 place values to move. Starting at the end of our product, we're going to move the decimal 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. So in our final answer, our decimal is between the 9 and the 2. So my answer here is 9 287 thousandths. Now we're going to try one more problem together. In this one, we're going to throw in some decimals that have positive and negative signs. So this time I have 15 right here, 15 times negative 2 18 hundredths. So again, this one has a number that has 2 digits and a number that has 3 digits. So we want to be able to stack the number with more digits on top and the number with less digits on the bottom of our multiplication. But before I actually get to multiplying, the only thing that makes this problem different than the previous example is that I have a negative sign. So I have to remember my rules for factors. A positive times a negative equals a negative. So my final answer will be a negative. Just going to multiply it out like I did before. 5 times 8 is 40, carry the 4. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. 5 times 2 is 10. I'm going to cross out the number I multiplied. I'm going to move to my next place value, so we'll leave this placeholder. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. I'll add those products together, which gives me 3,270. But of course, I still need to move the decimal. So if I look at this problem, another thing that makes this problem different is in my first factor, I have 2 decimal places, and in my second factor, I have no decimal places. So that means I'm only going to have to move this twice, because I have hundredths times ones, which still gives me hundredths. So I'm going to move the decimal, so now it gives me a number to the hundredths place. And I'm going to write my final answer next to my negative sign. But if I'm looking at this answer, I know I don't need the last zero because 32 and 7/10 is equivalent to 32 and 70/100, because this is just telling me actually I have nothing in the hundredths place. So my final answer will have that negative sign, so it's negative 32 and 7/10. So before we wrap up here, I want to give you an opportunity to practice some of these problems. Again, like in my previous videos, my practice problems will have answers that are linked on the bottom of this video, and it'll say to move the page down, and you can copy these problems and then check your answers when you're done underneath the video. So here's 4 practice problems for you. So the first one is negative 4 and 2/10 times 5/100. The second one is negative 2 and 5/10 times negative 37 and 1/10. And then 2 more. Here's number 3. This is 3 and 61/100 times negative 9/10. And lastly, I've got negative 12 times negative 17 and 1/10. Okay, so again, copy these practice problems down. When you're done, underneath the video, I'll go ahead and post the answers so you can check how well you did. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video and that it helped you out. So see you next time for another math tutorial from Vern Bacon. Thanks!